Are you seeking a better way to accelerate your sales, to scale your business, to live a life with no limits? Accelerate Sales Podcast features global experts who have cracked the code to recurring revenues with proven sales systems and get you on the fast track to scaling. Now let's accelerate your sales with today's episode.
Hello to the Accelerate Sales Solo Podcast, episode number 358. Today's topic is a little different. It's a summary of 2021, and I want to inspire you to have a huge 2020. So if it's your first time, welcome. If you love what you hear, please subscribe. If you're a regular, thanks for your support. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk more about you at the end of the show. Please check out past shows on your favorite platform. Just search Accelerate Sales, and in particular, check out those interview shows where I interview some amazing experts around the world. So prior to 2020, Melbourne was the most livable city in the world. If not, it was up in the top 3, and that's voted by globalcitizen.org. But in 2021, we held another world record, and that was for the most days in hard lockdown, 260 in total. To be honest, it didn't really impact me as much as I can. Most of my clients are all around the world. I work from home, and being a transplant patient, who's immune compromised, I really kept low key, and I was lucky to get access to the vaccines early, and now I'm actually have had 3 shots. But I really felt for the people that were, running small businesses. I had a lot of friends that run restaurants, etc. They really felt it, and also, parents in particular with school-aged children. And I won't go into the politics of it all, but I found it very interesting that different states here in Australia and different premiers had different alliances. Some were more towards the union, some were more towards the non-unions and small businesses. It was really interesting. Anyway, huge shout out to Connie, who's basically my right-hand person. She worked tirelessly over the 12 months whilst having 2 young children at home with her in Manila. And Manila in the Philippines made a decision that under 16, above 70 from memory, weren't allowed to leave home at all. And if you've ever been there, it's not as if they've got massive backyards. So, wherever you're listening from, I really hope that COVID is now, getting to the stage where it's not having a huge impact on your life. And for me, there's a lot of lessons learned of the things that I really didn't, or that I did take for granted that I didn't have through COVID that are slowly coming back. So I'd like to go through some of the key changes that I made this year, it being 2021, to inspire you in 2022 to make changes, as I said. I decided to create my first online course with the help of Maria Doyle, who is just brilliant at what she does. I learned many things from her, but what I learned, or the biggest takeaway, was not to present to people. So even now, I feel like I'm presenting to you rather than talking to you, but I actually do want to talk to you. But she showed me how you first ask someone about a topic, so what they know, they write it down in their workbook, then you teach them about that particular topic, and then ask them to wrap up what they've learned. So if you just go straight into telling someone something, they'll often default to, well, I already know this, I already know how to do that. But if you draw it out of them first, it's great. And to be honest, I didn't end up launching the online course. I went further into the membership instead, but I will take that knowledge. So thanks, Maria. I will take that knowledge in the future. But what I did become much better at was my podcast, my webinars, and my videos by using that. On a personal note, I decided to improve my golf. I used to be an okay golfer. With the transplant, etc., it slipped a little, but I can't really blame that. And I decided, okay, this year, even though we didn't always have access to golf here in Victoria, Australia, but that's another topic, I decided to really knuckle down. And I was very lucky to get a guy called Marty Joyce, who became my coach. He was normally coaching pros in the US tour, but because of COVID, the silver lining, not for him, but for us, that he got to stay here. And I really went from, mid-90s, and sorry for all of those that aren't golfers, but I went from, an okay golfer to a much better one over the period of time. And, just as far as last week, I actually broke the 80 mark now. So well on the way to single figures. So that's great. And I really learned that sometimes you just got to rip the Band-Aid, right? So, I'd sort of been scratching around, trying to self-teach, but I went to Marty. I trusted him. I played horrible for nearly 6 months because we completely went back to the basics, built it up again, and it was brilliant. And I think sometimes, it's really important to do that and just to let go of your ego. Just because I was a good golfer at some point in the past doesn't mean that I'm going to be a good one now, and I've just got to let go of my ego, start from scratch. And I think that's often when I mentor people, they still want to, hold on to the fact that they're great at things, and I get that, but sometimes you just got to let go, let someone else help you, and by default, you'll get there. I also double down on my membership, which is called the Sales Machine, which is predominantly around helping coaches, consultants to get more clients through sales. And we made a significant platform change. So we're using free Slack, which was okay, but I found that information disappeared after 10,000 records, and there was some other things. So we moved to Mighty Networks. It's like around $81 USD for me to have as many members as I like. I think it's great. So that improved. And I also realized just the importance of a community when you go through tough times, right? Being isolated at home, and a lot of us were. It was brilliant to have that community. So I want to thank everyone in that community for supporting each other. I also got some help from the amazing Sarah Gray. We built a fantastic webinar, and I've got all of that IP now that I, help share with clients. Obviously, Sarah's worked with some of the clients as well, but I realized that I just didn't have the right product market fit, and I was putting kerosene on a fire that wasn't really lit in the first place. So that was my key strategy. Then we did some different things where we worked with some strategic partners running webinars. So I took some of that knowledge and went to a bigger audience. So Dub was a great example of that, and I'll talk more about them in a moment. I moved from group mentoring to one-on-one, which I know most people go the other way, but I really felt like I wanted to get more hands-on and get more results for people. So I really enjoyed that, and I worked with some amazing clients that achieved significant results, particularly by leveraging strategic referral partners. So that was a key thing. So I won't mention all of my clients by name, but you're listening now. A huge thank you for you. I also worked with Michael Greenberg as a podcast mentor, and he was great. And then I went further with Melanie Benson to focus on the podcast. And really, I'd spent a lot of time on the podcast, and I was like, is it even worth doing it, even though I love to do it? So we changed the name to Accelerate Sales Podcast, which you are listening to now, and I'm really happy with the changes, and I really want to thank both of them, but in particular Melanie, who really helped me get that positioning right. During the middle of the year, I caught up with Scott Galletley, who used to be my business partner in Scale My Empire, where we sold that to a Google partner, and it was just great to see the new house that they'd got from the proceeds of the sale, see the renovation plans they've got. Scott went with the acquire, so he's now the CEO of that business, and he continues to expand and acquire businesses. So it was just brilliant to see that journey pan out after a lot of years of Scott and I working really close together. I'd like to thank all the sponsors of this podcast. This year we had Dub, Grain, Leadjet, and Book Like a Boss. Without them and the support they give us, the show would not be possible. So I really want to thank them. I'd also like to thank the experts that I work with and that have supported me and my team. So that's Justin from Tune WP, Balaz from who's the podcast editor. So I hope I've pronounced your name correct, Balaz. Just remove it if I haven't. Sean Sudo from for SEO. Sarah from Diverse Business Consultants that does our bookkeeping, and I want to thank Meryl and the team at Bean Ninjas for their support in the past. And finally, last but not least, is Trav, who's my accountant from ECA Partners. Also did a marketing program with Taki Moore. It's called Black Belt. It's my second time in there. And look, I learned a lot about the art of conversations on social and how to run webinars. But I also realized that strategic partnerships and LinkedIn was probably more my thing. But one of the best things that came out of that program was a meeting Wes and Matt from the Virtual Edge. They're based in South Africa. We collaborated on a lot of joint venture webinars, which we ran one recently, which was great. And we also tested some new strategies on LinkedIn. And Wes and I spent a lot of time together. And, Wes, I really appreciate your support. I did manage to get away for a week and really made me realize the strength of my team. So Connie, as I mentioned before, Connie's my right-hand person and really can't do the business. I couldn't had my transplant and run the business without her. Chi, who does all the coordination of this podcast. So Chi, thanks to you, you're essential. And she also does all my calendar management and other things. JC, who does all of my sales, in particular LinkedIn. And he's also now working with clients and teaching their VAs, which has been hugely successful. Diana is new to the team and she does a wonderful job on my content. So you would have seen that my content, both the show notes here, the social media posts and other things, and a lot of the newsletters are written by Diana, so huge benefit. It's taken a huge amount of workload off me. And Sarah came in last but not least, and she does a lot of the tasks and helps overall with the team. And I was having a great conversation with her that, someone who's 19, lives in Colombia, can now work for a person in Australia. And what she loves is looking at all the cutting edge marketing stuff we're doing and then applying it back into her course doing marketing in Colombia. So that's wonderful. We ran a reactivation campaign where we looked at all the people that were in our contacts but weren't on our list, and it was just amazing. This campaign, we had Julian and Danilak help us with that, and we got some great results out of that and got some really good clients. So if you haven't done that before, I highly recommend reaching out to Julian and doing that. And then finally, I had the pleasure of working, and I'm still working with Rachel B. Lee. And we, looked at it, and I probably went too far into consultants and coaches. No offense, I love you, but it was probably too narrow there, and also sales only. So we've repositioned it. We're going after cloud partners where I help with effectively the strategy, the sales and marketing engine, and then the team. So I'm loving that pivot. So thanks, Rachel. Finally, I want to thank you, you listening right now for, listening for how hopefully you've listened all year, but really, the amount of feedback I get, the reviews, to be honest, I do this if no one listened to it, but it does make such a difference when you reach out. If you've never reach out and say hello to me, You think, it's just a podcast, she's probably got everyone reaching out. That's not true, and I love to hear, what I'm doing well and what I can improve for you. Would also love to wish you all the best for the festive season. Whatever your religion, wherever you are in the world, I really want you to spend time with your family and your loved ones. And to be honest, that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to take a bit of a break. We haven't, all through the transplant, I pumped out episodes all the time, or my team did. I just did the easy bit, which was the recording. But we're going to take a break from the 10th of December 21 to the 10th of January 22. And they'll all have a well-earned break. Hopefully I can play a little bit of golf with my newfound form. But I just want you to have a fantastic time. I hope this has inspired you to go and make a positive change in your business and implement something in 2022, which is going to make a significant difference to your life. And as I always say, I'd love you to scale to live life with no limits. You can get all the links to all the people that have supported me, etc., in the podcast show notes. So once again, thanks, Diana, for those. It's paulhigginsmentoring.com/podcast. It's episode 358. And also, if you want a full transcription, you can go and get that as well. I always recommend the Pocket Cast app. They're not a sponsor, but it's been a great app. So please follow me on LinkedIn. I know this is a bit longer of an episode. Have a wonderful festive season again, and can't wait to have you listening again here next year. Thank you.
I'm fired up after today's episode. What about you? But hey, before you go, learning is just one piece of the puzzle. Now it's time to put today's strategy into action. Head over now to today's show page at paulhigginsmentoring.com/podcast and share how you'll put it into action. Be sure to head over to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe, rate, and review the show. Tell me what your favorite episode is. And don't wait 1 minute more to gain access to your pulse check at paulhigginsmentoring.com. This could be the difference between struggling to get more leads and making this next quarter your best one yet.